This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Alright, does anyone want a printed agenda?
I'll take one actually. Thank you.
I'll take one. You've already printed it.
I know. I did print
I'm not confirmed.
5 copies.
Yeah, that's helpful.
All right. Welcome, Misty. Good to see you.
Thank you too, Jamie. And Connie and
John.
John
Hi, Misty.
and Cassie.
I'm Cassie. Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, have you seen her?
Sometimes I don't
Zoom
recognize
or-
people who I've seen on Zoom.
Fair
And
enough.
I know,
It's
they're
very
like,
true.
really?
I know.
That's what you look like in person?
Yeah,
Like,
this
I
is
don't even know you, but I do recognize you.
Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah, so this is generally where we've been meeting. This is our sort of
Okay.
designated room unless there was a conflict. So this is like our 3rd meeting down here, I think.
Okay.
So glad we were able to find a time for most of us to make it. Marin's schedule is always a little bit tricky to deal with. So what's that?
He's busy.
He's busy, I know.
He said, it looks like he took a new job though, and this time may not work for him.
Oh,
Who's that?
They said
Here.
mountain time.
Marin? Who are you talking
He's
about?
on mountain time now with his job.
he's on mountain time with his job. Wow,
So-
yeah.
So we got a mountain here.
I know, and this time is going to be hard for me. This was a one-off.
Okay.
What is a good time? Let's maybe should we just
Some-
talk
How about
about
a doodle?
Yeah, we can do that.
Should we do a doodle? You know, do you ever do those?
We can. It's
Works
just
for-
yeah. I mean, we're here, 4 of us here now. Marin will work around, but yeah. I know 4 o'clock was obviously too early, and like 5 is like pushing it. So
Right, just because
it's all
late
good.
meetings and stuff like that, so 5:30 and after, I know that gets late, but that's really gonna be the best time for me. I don't know about anybody else, just because of my work schedule.
5:30 is fine with me.
It's fine with me.
John, do you have an issue with a 5:30 start time, generally speaking?
So do you get to take time off if you stay late at work?
Yeah, basically I just, it all works out in the end. I'll like take other
Just
time.
checking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask to you too, but I want to make sure that.
Yeah,
Connie-
it's more important for
I
them.
can make it until once
Okay.
a month.
But Marin's the big wild card, because that's
Marin's a
mountain
big-
time.
I know, but I can't push it back to 7 or 7:30. You
Oh,
know,
sure,
it's
sure,
like
yeah.
too late. I already know
about
the
6?
building.
Would
Come up
that
with
help?
something,
If I-
just forward
Six
that
works for
decision
me, too.
along.
6 works for you. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's tentatively go with 5:30, maybe 6 if that's more advantageous for Marin. I mean, these things, we tend to run around an hour. We can be a little bit longer than that sometimes, depending. So, be
And is
mindful
that
of.
on Thursdays?
No, we're going back to Mondays.
So I
It's
have
like-
the Conservation Commission meetings on the 2nd and 4th Monday.
Right, we're going to go with the 3rd Monday.
That'll work, yeah.
With what I was planning to do is move to the 3rd Monday, so it's at the bottom of the agenda.
Oh, I see there.
upcoming
Oh, I
dates.
see, okay.
So we've kind of started, but not
That should
started.
work for me, yeah.
So the only other question I have is there any way we could start having our meetings also be on Zoom for people who have trouble getting here? Like,
Not allowed as those
well,
right
can we
now.
ask for a dispensation so it would be allowed since we're having so much trouble? I mean, why is it not
It
allowed?
might help Marin
I think it's
participate,
a,
right? That's the implication I got from his earlier
It
comments.
might, it might help all of us participate, certainly, but
Is
I
that
know, I'll
state
tell you what.
regulation at this point?
It's a licensure thing. You have to have a Zoom license, and you have to pay for those.
City's not using Zoom anymore either. They're using
Yeah,
Google
we
Meets
switched to
now,
Oh,
right?
okay, so Google Meet.
My experience with doing the hybrid meetings, the Conservation Commission meetings are hybrid.
They are.
They are, and they chose a few boards/committees to be hybrid because of if they were making, like issuing permits and things that require public attendees, then they were able to get hybrid.
Right.
They're doing it through Google Meet, which is, we already are like in the Google thing, so that's like a free thing.
Yeah.
But it takes a little more figuring to get set up. So I don't know like how that would come into play. Like maybe y'all could do it, and I might be able to help set it up if that is a thing. But I don't know what the rules are for how or why they're
Right.
letting certain boards and committees do that.
I can ask again. I asked previously and was told no.
Yeah,
And we're having so much trouble getting all of the people to
That's not
attend.
the concern.
Yeah.
The concern, we got to figure out a time that works.
Enough time has passed since that early transition. I think it was a lot more like this is what we're doing, it's sticking to that at the beginning.
Mhm.
Maybe there'll be more lax as we get time, but I think at the beginning the access to the hybrid like technology was
I see.
limited, and so they were like,
Yeah.
we need to hone it in for these groups, and then as they get more, access to tech, they might be able to dabble in the flexibility. I don't know. That's just like, no one has told me that.
There's
I'm
a
just saying that, so.
There's a separate set of issues that come up around running hybrid meetings for like equity between people that are in the room and people that are not as well. So that's like another thing to consider.
To be truly accessible to the public, like the way it works with the Conservation Commission meetings, if the meeting is going on and then something happens with hybrid and the hybrid gets shut down, we have to cancel the meeting and stop.
Right.
And we don't restart, and it kind of derails it all. And so if we only have Marin on there, but technically the public could access it that way, that could be like kind of annoying if he somehow he has technical, or it crashes and it only is really going to impact him, but we technically have
So
to
I guess the
cancel it.
question is whether if we, because we're basically doing this for Marin, and like if we just said Marin is going to attend virtually, could we just do that?
Maybe, I don't know.
You know,
That's a good
I used to work in special education, and we had meetings all the time where some of the people, like, we didn't even have video, we just had a phone.
Right, right.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
if
got to
it's
be
not-
legal.
If it's
but-
not advertised as being accessible to the public virtually, maybe that would make it okay.
Yeah.
Because then I think it's just managing that expectation for the public. But I don't know if that's it.
Well, we'll see. Well, it's worth asking.
Yeah.
All right,
I want
so-
to hold you accountable.
No, let me back up here and say welcome to the June 30th, 2022 meeting of the Energy Advisory
Are we
Committee.
on record now?
We are now officially, we started but didn't start.
Yeah.
So, yes, welcome. Jamie Paquette, the chair of the committee. We do have 4 members of the committee here, so we're all good quorum-wise. As well as, thank you, Cassie, as always, for joining us. We do not have minutes from the previous meeting finished yet to
I
review and
apologize, I'm
approve.
having technical issues. My
So-
computer is dying.
We will push that
It
review
was supposed to
and
make our lives
approval
easier,
Yeah,
Connie.
I know. Yeah.
until the next time. So we have opportunity for public speak, but there are no members of the public here at the moment, so we can pass over that part. I did want to add a quick thing here on open meeting law training updates. Stephen updated me that able to get hers done after some delay.
Yeah, they
So-
pushed it out a couple times.
Right.
So it was fine though.
And I think you were just saying it would be good if we just had made sure that like everyone's kind of, like, I don't know, did you all send your information back to the city?
Yeah, the way they kept attendance was just if you signed into the Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got an email that just confirmed that I was at the Zoom, so.
Right.
that was
And did you provide that email back to the city?
No, was I supposed to?
I think you're supposed to you should send it to Lindsay Mailer, I believe, in the mayor's office.
I don't remember, it was so long
2 months
ago.
ago.
Okay, yeah, if you did that, I think they were asking that everybody that did it send it to them so they can keep track of each committee member and make sure that they have completed that.
Okay, great, thank
So,
you.
yeah, send that to her and we should be good. But thank you all for having done that. I think we're in full compliance as a committee at this point with that part. So, on to the next quick bit here on the municipal aggregation. So to be a short one because there's not actually a lot to report. I do have copies, and I have a printed copy. I can also send PDF of the Good Energy contract. I accidentally printed 2 copies if anybody would like to see it. This is the baseline version. So what's going on right now is it needs to be reviewed by the city solicitor. And based on the conversation with the mayor last time, we need to talk to some references from the other towns, which I have actually not gotten to.
Does this go through the mayor once it goes through the solicitor?
The solicitor is there. The city council approved the resolution, right? So it says allows us to go contract out for this part.
Okay.
So the mayor was here last time and gave her approval to work with Good Energy specifically and not do a whole RFP because there's no cost to the city and we're allowed to. The state laws allow us to do this directly if we so choose. Pending review by the city solicitor of the contract and pending contacting references from other towns.
Okay.
So what's going on with the city solicitor is I sent it to Lindsay, which is where they asked me to send it. Right now it's the end of the fiscal year and there's a freeze on sending any new work to the solicitor. I think they must be like at budget capacity for that for the year. So the solicitors can't she can't even send it to him right now until the fiscal year changes in July 1. And then start next week, I think, be able to do that. I can't imagine it's going to take more than an hour or two for the solicitor to review and just make sure this is all okay.
And then once after the solicitor, where does it go from there?
The solicitor gives its okay.
Okay.
If there's any changes need to make, we'll have to go back to Good Energy and say, hey, here's the changes that the city wants before we can enter this contract. Make sure that's okay with them.
When
If we can
make
agree
that?
with that and we can get, and we have, we get good references, I'm absolutely confident with the references they gave me are going to be good ones, but I will talk to everybody.
Do you have
Sure.
3?
I have at least 3, I think 3 or 4.
Great,
We got
great.
Belchertown, Hadley, a couple others.
Great.
So, yeah, so we'll be fine with that. At that point, I think it will be the mayor's office that signs this. Kind of it's the city of Easthampton signed by the mayor. So the mayor will sign the contract with them. This contract basically puts into place our ability to go with them to create the plan, to go to DOER, to create the aggregation plan itself. So this is not actually implementing anything in terms of actual aggregation. This is like, we have to go to DOER and get their approval. Once we do that, there's also general public things that have to happen.
That was my question, is where in the sequence does the public access piece come?
I think that's as we're putting it together to go to DOER, because
So once it's signed, that would be when we should start.
that's when Good Energy is going to come and say, okay, let's put this together.
Okay.
This is, we're going to help you get this out to the public. We're going to do all the necessary public hearings, comment periods, whatever it might be. We're going to start, getting that out there. Then I think there actually has to be a plan in place for the public to comment on, as well as for DOER to approve, because then once that's approved by them, then it can go to DPU and get in their queue for the final approval, which is then what would allow us, once DPU approves it, then what we can do is take that approval and go and contract out with an actually electricity supplier.
Okay.
That Good Energy would help us broker that conversation, figure out what are all the different
So I
offerings
guess
that there
I was
might be.
getting confused between the contract and the plan. So we get the contract signed, but then we develop the plan, which is,
Right.
and once that's done, does that have to be reviewed by anyone, or do we just get to do it?
Yes, no, it's reviewed by DOER first to make sure. it's
No, but I mean, before we send it to DOER, do we have to get it okayed by?
Good question, and I don't have that answer right at hand.
Well, I want to piggyback on her question, because
Mhm.
I'm afraid you're going to do all this work, and we're going to get way down the road, and the mayor's going to tank it at the last minute.
No, we met with her last time, and she's been.
But I mean, I think she needs to be folded in again as you get further and
Mhm.
closer to the contract phase.
After getting this signed, or actually after we're doing this in the
At
the
some
plan
point,
building?
Before you do all this due diligence,
Mhm.
and you get way down the road, and she says, wait a minute, you didn't do this, this, and this. I think we should fold her in
Well,
at
she
least one
know
more
the
time.
lesson
She
that
did
you're
tell us
referring
last
to
time
here.
that she doesn't.
There's a couple lessons.
Yeah,
there,
for
so-
sure.
Also, though,
And-
she doesn't feel that she wants to sign the contract unless we can show her that other communities are very happy with working with this company.
Yeah, but I
So-
still think it's worth having her folded in into one more meeting as we get further along in this process.
Can you lay
Just
this
to
out?
say, here's what we're encountering, here's where
I
we're
can
going
probably
next.
best
Are there
do it.
any other
There's-
things
it's all- yeah.
that you want us to do?
Right, but I think
Before we get there.
the due diligence with the other cities is one of the things she wants us to do before she's going to, I mean, she made that pretty clear.
Yeah, so again, none of this is any cost to the city, right? We're not paying anything for any of this. Even once we sign a services agreement, once we do anything, there's never a check that needs to be written or anything like that. So we do steer clear of those sorts of issues. But I agree with you. We want to keep the mayor in the
Yeah.
loop. We want her to be involved. And, it's her signature, it's going to go on this and everything else. So we want to make sure that there's no surprises when it comes time to get that signature done. Right, deal with the solicitor. You told us, talk to the solicitor. Solicitor said it's great. You asked us, here's the references, here's what we heard from these towns. Now we're going to sign this, and this is going to get this next stage, and then we can talk about what that next stage looks like, which is like working with them. Who needs the approval, right? Is this going in front of the public? Is this going to DOER? Is it going to both? That's your question is like, what's the exact steps? And I know we've laid this out. We've had them explain it to us. I can't retain it all in my
No,
brain either.
even what you've
So-
gone over so far, if we had a little
Yeah, there's a
punch list,
whole-
a little punch list with a rough
It
schedule,
exists.
and then we just make for sure the mayor, you've been communicating with her, is informed at each critical point along the way, so she doesn't then say, where'd this all come from, and you didn't keep me posted.
Or you didn't check this box over here, I really need to see this. And
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to save you some heartache.
Oh yeah, and it's not just me, right? This is
On
a
the
collective.
front
This
end.
is collective effort too.
I'm
from everybody.
thinking about,
So-
about the lawyer,
Mostly.
you know, maybe having deep concerns.
Yeah.
And that's where
Yeah.
I'm concerned that things might have a roadblock.
There could be. There's something might come up when they see this contract and it's like, oh, that's not going to work for us, and maybe we have to adjust based on that. I mean, this is a process that 150 other municipalities in the Commonwealth have gone through and successfully, completed. So we're not trotting like totally new ground here. It's new for us. It's new for this city, but it's not like completely uncharted. So the folks at Good Energy have been good to us. They've done this a bunch. They know how to navigate this stuff. They'll know to a degree if there's a potential roadblock. They may be able to alert us to certain things that we might have to look out for, just based on their collective experience and history. So we will. And again, we're all volunteers, right? So we're spending like a little bit of time on this. They're the professionals. They're the ones who will help us once we can officially work with them. Will help us do all the heavy lifting, right? 'Cause
Do you
it's in
want
their
help getting
financial
references?
interest.
Maybe
I might,
maybe
yeah.
we should each take one of the cities.
I think
so
we
that you
could
don't have
do-
to do all
Right, I
of
was just
them.
thinking.
Yeah, I
Happy
could
to
farm
take
that
a
out, and we
case.
could each, why don't we each take one of them?
Yeah.
And we can just have a quick set of, not that hard to come up with a set of questions that'll just be like, so yeah, that's a good idea. I will pass those things out to everybody so we can all have a hand in it.
So you want to just send us an email, like just delegate?
Yeah, because I have it all. I have it all in email from Patrick and Good Energy, like the different people to talk to.
And then what are the questions we want to ask?
We can brainstorm a little bit right now. I think the main questions are, tell us about your experience working with them, and generally, and then would you recommend somebody else working with them? Essentially, it kind of boils down to those two things.
What were the roadblocks?
Yeah, right. If there were problems, if you ran it, and you can certainly ask them just about their experience with the process in general too. Like, what did you find easy about it? What did you find complicated? What's the feedback you've gotten from your citizens on this? Like, are there things you wish you'd done differently? It can be as much about learning about the process as it is about speaking about them specifically. That was certainly one thing that I did early on when I got to talk to Greenfield about their process, which is they were one of the early adopters of this, and like learning from talking to that woman like a year or so ago, was certainly useful for me. To help you answer like what is the timeline look like, what does the process look like as well, and certainly, but like I know I've seen it on different websites. There is kind of like a step-by-step guide kind of thing that you can see. So I can share that as well. So to share reference.
I think maybe another question might be, were they at all surprised with the outcome of the bid, the solicitation bid process in terms of it varying significantly from what Good Energy led them to believe might,
In terms of pricing or anything like that?
Yeah,
or what's
number of
like,
bidders, the scale, the competitiveness of the pricing.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question too. Yeah, were you happy with the choices that you had? And we can all come back the next time. Yeah, and then we'll have until, our next meeting won't be till middle of August. So we'll get a little break and have some time to all do this and come back. So yeah, we'll describe experience. So the other thing I asked Lindsay about was like doing a press release around this at some point. She said, yeah, I'll be happy to send that out. I would kind of ask her if they would help us draft it, and I did not get a response on that I was it was sort of like, yeah, we'll help you send it out. So I think it would be up to us to
Like put
draft
the stamp
something
on it.
if and when we want to do that.
I'm
So
happy to do that. I've done a little bit of technical writing. I
Yeah.
can take a look at old press releases of things
yeah.
and just sort of, mimic other
Okay.
press releases.
Yeah, I was
Just,
trying to figure
like, signal
out.
when you want that.
Well,
to
that's
start.
the question. When do we want to do it? Do we want to
Right.
do it now and say we're at this stage, or do we want to wait until things are more concrete?
I think, yeah, we kind of missed the part to do it like when the city council approved it in that moment. You know, that would have been the time to like,
Okay.
right after that, be like, hey, this just happened. Like, let's put a story out about it. I think probably maybe after we do the next phase, which is like get the services agreement signed, and that way we know we've got a path forward and we can like talk about, maybe we can work with them to say like, here's an approximate timeline of everything, and then we can sort of orient the press release around, Easthampton pursuing aggregation, eyeing 2024 implementation or something like that,
And
whatever it might be.
they're developing the plan right now,
Mhm.
this company.
Yeah, because that'll be part of definitely the helpful, like, we need to get the word out, we need to get this out there so that people understand that it's happening, so that we meet our requirements on public notice and ability to speak on it.
And so
just-
also maybe we could also
Under
include the
education.
dates of when we intend to have some public.
Yeah. So yeah, if we get this signed right, we can have a conversation with them, right? Okay, what if there are going to be public things? Like, yeah, what are we looking at for those? And that's a good idea for sure.
Yeah, we could always do a draft and pass it around for everyone to review.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's one of those things that sits there, and then the Gazette has a slow news day, and they're like, okay, we'll run this story, kind of thing.
There's been a lot of slow, I don't know, it's a lot of slow news days, or just not enough staff to put the news in that tiny
I wish I
little
was gonna say the
paper.
same thing,
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
Every day's a slow news day here.
Yeah.
And you know what else is
Because that's a little thin these days.
And I know, I definitely, like, 4 days in a row, I'm like seeing the same story in my email, like,
A lot of wire service stories that don't require their own reporters, which is the
Well,
way
if
it's
it's
heading.
not skies falling news, it's not news anymore.
Yeah.
right.
So it'd be good to do this also, because if we schedule these public reviews, and the plan will have to be done by then. It's like putting a
Correct.
deadline on it, which is probably a good idea.
Yeah,
for all
well,
of
there
us.
may be some public hearing that helps inform the plan too, where you want to have that out because you want to know, like, what kind of options are people clamoring for? Like, does the community really want 100% renewable option? Is there a strong demand for that? Or is it going to be, or is there a really strong, like, price-conscious contingent that's going to want only, like, the bare minimum of things? Like, so are we going to want to do 3 different levels, 4 different levels, or keep it more simple than that? Like, what are the number of offerings that we're going to want to have? Because that's going to dictate maybe who responds to, right? If we're doing like a strong 100% renewable, there might be certain companies that specialize there. Whereas if it's like less strong on the renewable side, then there may be other providers that are like more in that.
Which actually is also a good question to ask these other communities, like what did they do in terms of how many tiers did they set up, and what was the response?
Right. Yep. For sure. I mean, I think, generally speaking, we assume that there's going to be strong interest in supporting renewables and, a higher percentage than what the state requires and all that, but certainly that's not universal. Yeah, so those are all good questions that we can get into with that. Surprises in the process. So, yeah, by the time our next meeting happens, it'd be great if we have all those references done. Hopefully the solicitor will be able to review and comment any comments by then. If and when I get those back, I probably will send them straight to the folks at Good Energy if there's any changes that need to be made, like even if it's before the next meeting, I can certainly update on that. But if it's not too onerous.
I'm getting a little bit stuck here in process, but
Okay.
is your plan to have each one of us take a reference?
Yes.
It would be great if we all had uniform questions.
I was thinking that
Yeah,
too.
that's I'm taking some notes, and I think we'll
You just want to send
I'll
it
just
out?
send out a list of like, the five things that we've talked about here.
Right.
And if you want to, improvise and add a couple of things, or like your conversation goes into there, you get some extra information, or things occur to you, I think that's fine.
Perfect.
We'll try to keep it as uniform as possible, but generally speaking, like, unless we hear any specific red flags about this company, we want to educate ourselves, but mostly we want to be able to report back to the mayor. It says, hey, Hadley said great things, Belchertown loves their plan, they had a great experience, or, oh man, they really, said, well, you might want to work with them, but watch out for X, Y, Z, whatever those things are.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
that's a good feedback mechanism into the mayor as well, to make sure that we're having that extra touch point, and that we're like
Exactly, yeah.
keeping everybody on the same page. And, like,
I suppose it would be inappropriate to ask them if we can see their contracts.
who?
These cities.
Oh, I mean, again, I will send the
It's not
PDF.
inappropriate, it's
of the-
just whether they want to go to the trouble, probably of digging that out.
Oh, you're talking about the actual electrical contracts?
Should be
The
public
contracts
information.
with good energy that
Okay,
these communities.
because remember, a good energy is not, this is like the contract for them, this is the services agreement.
But that's what our
Essentially.
lawyer is going to look at and may change, right?
Right.
So I'm just curious, like how close to that.
Did everything else stay? How many other, if there were other changes?
Yeah.
That's another question we can ask.
So this is a draft you have?
This is a draft, this is their basic, this is
Okay.
their, like, you want to print it. I'll send you the PDF.
That's fine.
If you want.
Yeah, I'd like to see it
Yeah.
too, since we're going to be drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's another question I'll ask, right? Were there what changes did you make to the services agreement?
Jamie, I feel like we're giving you all the homework.
Well, no, it's not like one time and then it gets spread
Okay.
out. I want to try to be mindful of that, because the fact that I haven't done this yet is a testament to the fact that
I mean, I
I've
could put
stretched
together,
in
I
here.
could put together this list. It's just a question of, we're talking about what it's going to be. Do you want me to do it so you don't have to do it? Put together the list of the questions we're going to ask?
Sure, go ahead.
I'll do that.
That's good. Yeah, it can be, it's part of the minutes.
I'm borrowing my downstairs neighbor's laptop, so I'll be able to.
Okay, yeah, if you have a good notes on what they
Yeah,
all are,
I
that's
think
fine.
I do. I'll send it out, and then if people, and then we can figure out if it's what we want, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, so all good to get everybody, again, all of us on the same page here too, so. I'm happy to have you do that. We'll each just pick a town to go to and talk to over the next few weeks,
Yeah.
and then see what sort of feedback we get from the city.
Are there there's no mandates, can we do this by Teams and Zoom and that kind of thing, or?
The
There's no mandate to have to
conversations?
go out in
It's not a
person, right?
decision.
No, it'd be phone calls. I mean, I'm gonna give you phone numbers for these
Okay,
people probably,
alright.
so.
Right, it's not a decision. It's not a decision of the committee or deliberation, it's just information gathered.
Just information, oh, sorry to that. So, yeah, being able to email each other back and forth
Yeah.
about this, yeah, we're not deliberating anything, we're just sharing information.
God forbid we get anything done.
Yeah, we don't want to, well, certainly, yeah, open meeting law, we want to be mindful of that too. Okay, so, yeah, it's good, try to keep that chugging along. We don't want too many delays in this part of the process, because Lord knows there'll probably be enough of them when we get into the actual government regulatory deliberations. Excellent. All right, so let's go to another, further initiatives, projects, public education. We've had a few conversations and
Under here?
electric buses
Yeah.
and things.
Well,
What's-
like that, there was a rumor from my person I know at the Northampton Bus Transportation, whose boss is now coming over to Easthampton to take Dale Doron's place
Oh,
as the business service manager. Nick is his name.
oh, interesting.
There was a rumor over there that we had signed only a 1 year. I checked with Mayor and he said it's a 3-year contract. I then contacted Dale. Should have said goodbye and thank you. This is her last day today. But she was been very cooperative.
Yeah, she's good.
She sent me the bid document, which had a lot more detail than the one she sent me in April from the prior year,
Interesting.
prior contract period. It's got some interesting stuff in it. Of course, there's nothing in there at this point about electric buses, but you
Right.
have a lot of the data you need. Maren was here, I'd be curious to find out what the price of this. School committee should know what the price of the new contract is. They awarded it,
Mhm.
I guess. I think in May, mid-May, by mid-May they would have to award.
Oh, that sounds about right, actually,
Yeah.
School budget available online, 'cause it's probably in there.
She said she would I could get my hands on the bid, but she didn't have it in electronic form to give me, so,
Okay.
to go around the offices here or something and collect. Yeah, are they in here? Yeah.
School department?
Yeah,
They're
they're
on the top
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
I've been following some stuff, following this thing that Northampton's really interested in. That's a study in Vermont, in Burlington, with 3 different bus makes, manufacturer makes in their buses up there, and how they will perform in the winter. And they're supposed to have been studying that all winter in terms of how long the battery lasts, the reliability of the whole system, and maintenance. And I've been following, no results out yet. Hopefully we'll get that. I see from reading that there's a concern in general about enough lithium being mined and mineable worldwide to support this expansion into electric vehicles that everyone's pushing and anticipating, which is scary. I do have a meeting, well, the infrastructure thing is one of the things that puzzle me the most, and I talked a little bit with Cassie, and I missed your email back to me, which I just found now.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to talk with Cassie before. Maybe we did a little bit. We could do some more, but I have a meeting set up now with Chris Mason next Thursday to go over their thinking and strategy in Northampton. He said it's not so complicated.
For electric buses?
Yeah, the infrastructure, and I mean, like as I said before briefly, the transportation manager in Northampton, Tammy Lieber, who's an Easthampton resident, says that they need, she sees the need. She's been given a mandate by the school committee, no more bus purchases unless they're electric, but know how to, and how to overcome all the problems involved, infrastructure, all that.
We're not talking about the big yellow school buses. We're talking about,
Yeah, we are.
but they don't own those buses, Northampton.
They own some. I
thought
ride
they-
in one
I
every
thought you-
day.
I
Not
thought-
every day, but I ride.
I misunderstood what you told me last time. I thought that they only owned some of those smaller buses.
They own one van and they own 5. They're blue buses. They're 30-seaters instead of 60-something seaters.
Okay.
So
But
they are
they're
small.
mostly
Okay.
diesel. They're big belchers.
But the big
run
ones
a
that
lot.
they use are all Durham.
The real big ones are Durham. The
Okay.
70-seat, 60-something, 70-seat capacity will be Durham.
And
Durham's
and just remind me, so what does Easthampton actually own?
nothing, except
We
maybe
don't
some
own anything.
vans, possibly some vans for other purposes in town. I don't know,
We don't
the
know.
community center, or whether
Yeah,
it's
the schools don't own
The
anything.
schools don't use, so
Yeah.
how do they just,
It's Durham.
Durham just provides the transportation
Durham, and
of
then
smaller
Van-
vehicles
Van
as needed?
Pool is the other one.
Yeah, Van
Van
Pool.
Pool out of Wilbraham,
Right.
which I think is a separate contract, right?
Oh, yeah,
Is that-
I think it is.
Yeah.
I also, anyway, she felt like a citywide committee was critical too, because you need, well, here we're talking, we got a fire department coming, I'm going on record, I heard in the last meeting saying the next vehicle they purchased, they want to be an electric fire engine. With all the stuff that's going on with the police already, I don't know if the DPW is going to get involved, but if we ever move the school department forward in that direction, you can't have everybody acting off on their own and have an efficient charging system and infrastructure. And Northampton feels like they're going to need a big chunk of land to have the charging facilities where you can store all those buses to charge them. And there's going to be a significant cost involved in setting that up and working. Eversource presumably, hopefully, will take on a lot of their end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a grant. I did look into the federal flying around on the web and the grants arena for electric buses, and the Department of Transportation got $5 billion that came out, I think, out of the AA whatever Relief Act.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now they've got a notice out that the first cycle, 500 million. But I figured out $5 billion. I just calculate $5 billion at the cost of an electric bus. That's 0.3% of the national bus fleet. school bus fleet. So it sounds like a crap load of money,
Right,
and
until you
maybe
start
there's an
to-
opportunity for us to get in on it. But there's a priority for environmental justice communities and poor communities.
You said you found a grant for that?
There's a Department of Transportation.
Is there a deadline or is there?
They're August, yeah. So, I mean, if we knew where we were heading and had a plan, I think you have to have a plan here. We're
Right.
not gonna have priority because I don't think we're in a community that's got 20%.
It's tied to the school budget too, because.
Right, well, that's why we started
That's
this, like, because we were,
problem.
right, we got in, like, right at the end of the last cycle, and they're starting to, so now they're 3 years locked in. But that's okay, because we, as we see, it's kind of like an not intractable, but like, it's a large thing, it requires a lot of coordination and planning, and
Yeah.
like, before they ever go out to bid, you have to know, like, okay, this is, you know, either you're gonna request this, or you're gonna give priority to it, but we have to make sure that it's gonna work. Like, you know, we have this
Yeah.
company Durham that has no electric infrastructure for buses right now. They're the
And they are eligible, by the way.
Yeah, they're the only company that bid.
That's what I
Private
was gonna
companies,
ask
private
you.
companies, if they're using the buses in a contract or have an existing contract with a, public system, can get the grant from the federal government for buses.
So it just seems to me, given the realities of how small Easthampton is in terms of being able to afford to actually purchase vehicles to use this way, that we would be better off getting Durham to switch over to electric vehicles.
Yeah, and that's why I put on here, like, possibly in conjunction with adjacent communities, because Northampton and Hampshire Regional all use Durham. Like, so that now we're beyond, like, oh, this is just Easthampton. This is 3, 4, 5, however communities, and like a much larger number of buses. Now it makes more economic sense for Durham to say, okay, we can do this in support of all these communities. And
Yeah,
that requires
that makes
coordination.
a lot of sense to me, to try to collaborate with some of these other communities that already use Durham, to put pressure on Durham to start developing
Right.
a plan for EV vehicles. Because
Yeah,
how
I
many
think
would-
it's soon time to do that. I think we'll have to talk with Chris Mason and find out more about what's going on in Northampton on the infrastructure and on the bus business. There's a youth commission in Northampton. He mentioned to me today, I heard about it from Tammy Lieber also, who's been directed, advised by the powers that be in the city to go talk to the bus vendors and start putting that in their ear and putting some pressure on them to start,
Right.
getting in gear with what's coming. And so there's reasons to try to organize something, and fairly soon. It's a couple of years
You were on the
process.
planning committee, right? You're a planning board?
No, I work for the Conservation
Oh,
Commission.
conservation. So Jamie Webb would be an awesome resource. She has her ears to the ground on a lot of this stuff. I'm just wondering if
She's in the plan, I'm sorry, she's with,
Assistant planner.
Assistant
Yeah.
her
planner.
name's Jamie?
Jamie Webb. She was.
Oh, Jamie
She
Webb.
used to come. She used to come
Yeah.
to all
I
these
recognize
meetings.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a marvelous resource, though, and I was just trying to reverse kind of engineer this. So I think, given the involved nature of it, we've missed the boat on the grant for August. We'd be
Yeah, I'd
looking
say
at
so.
something.
Yes.
We'd be
Right.
looking at
Right.
something
It should be
next year.
annual. It should be annual cycles.
But we could put this in place as a longer-term project.
Yeah.
So a year out now, if we start now,
Right.
do the due
I agree.
diligence, it's possible if the grant cycles again, I don't know much about that grant,
Right.
that we could have it, something in place and ready to
At the end of
apply
this,
for.
at the end of this contract, that would be a reasonable, not overly ambitious, but not
1 year will
lackadaisical
fly
set of
by.
goals. Yeah.
It's a 3-year contract?
It's a 3-year contract. Yeah.
So it seems to me that the next step is to get whoever the people are in the city government on board with this, like the school, who is it? Is it the school committee? Is it the city council?
School-
Well,
It
it's
seems
first
to be
it's
the
like
school committee.
Dale's position, like the business services person,
Right.
because they're going to be the one getting a bid package ready and like out there.
Yes, but she wouldn't be the one to decide that in the future we're going to demand electric vehicles.
She'd have an influence on it if she said it wasn't possible.
Superintendent would
Like,
have an influence.
I think
Well,
she kind
I'm
of shot
talking
it
about
down. I think
this Durham business. Frankly, I think it's unrealistic to think that we're going to buy very many electric vehicles, given how expensive they are. It seems to me we would be in a better shape if we got Durham
I also agree with that because
Yeah.
I think that the police and fire are in line first before the school will be in terms of the mayor's priorities.
Yeah.
And also in
They're
terms of
never
the
gonna have
state
to-
requirements, the
Yeah.
state doesn't require that school buses be electrified.
I
Right,
think
not
Jamie
yet,
went-
but they.
Not yet, but I mean, I'm just
there are
saying, I
other
agree
states-
that.
planning on it happening.
But
There are other
the
states
fire
that
and
do
police
that.
right now are the priority for the state in terms of reimbursement and help.
Right. There are other states, and like Boston's looking at stuff, and New York State is doing a whole statewide electric bus.
I wonder if Jamie Webb would be
Process.
able to steer us in terms of like, hey, we're thinking a year out from now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got two paths, buy electric vehicles or get Durham on board to contract for electric vehicles. Which one's more feasible? Where do we start from there? Should we go back to Northampton? Should we go down the rabbit hole of infrastructure? Hate to have you do all that work and then it's just a bust, you know, like
Right.
we're stalemated. And she seems to know the ins and outs of that stuff really well.
She does. But I would say it just generally seems more feasible that the city would try to convince Durham as opposed to buying the
Right.
required number of buses, also buying the place to, or figuring out where to store them, and then also buying the charging infrastructure, and then also fronting the cost for charging them. We discussed the demand charges, they're quite high.
As opposed to just infrastructure and.
Well, as opposed to
Yeah.
working with other communities to compel Durham to become, but the
Right.
feasibility of that, I don't know.
I don't know either,
Make
but
a company
if
change.
Northampton is looking at like trying to do a central thing, like, well, maybe there's a central place they could do it where a private company that is going to meet whatever requirements they have set up for them and surrounding communities could all, all the Durham buses right now are in Easthampton. They're not all spread out. They don't
Yeah.
park in Northampton and here, they all park here in Easthampton and
Yeah.
they're on Ferry Street and then they go out to the various places. So you really just need that one central place
So
that
there
can serve
already is a
multiple
place.
communities. Well,
Probably owned.
whether you have infrastructure there to do that much electrical is like, I mean,
That's true, yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
maybe lots of additional costs. that
We
could
have
be
to buy
put
that
with
place from
John,
Durham.
you said you're talking to Chris Mason next week. Would you ask him if Northampton did any feasibility studies
On
on
the
electric
subject?
vehicles, on the subject, and then if we
I'll ask
did-
him, I can assure you pretty much that they haven't done any feasibility studies. They're really at ground zero in terms of the
Talking.
school bus system and infrastructure for that, but
So they're kind of all over the place then.
the school committee just got really bold and aggressive and said, it'd be nice if we were doing this, we should be doing this, so we will do this, and not worry yet about all the nuts and bolts about how you
Right.
make it happen and who's paying for it. So,
So-
I'll find out as much as I
Yeah.
can from him about this stuff.
Back to your question about who's in charge of this, right? There's like the school committee's leading there.
Yeah.
Like that would be ideal if we had something like that here, and certainly we probably have some in between Marin and some
Well,
other
we-
folks. Have some champions that we could have on the school
Because
committee
I'm also
to push
thinking,
that.
if
but-
I was on the school committee and I discovered that this little committee in East Hampton was pushing all this stuff and getting all this information about electric school buses and hadn't said a word to the school committee about it, I would not be pleased. I mean, I think ideally, if the school committee would get on board with this,
Mhm.
that would just make everything so much easier, And if, on the other hand, they are not on board, I think it will be very difficult to make it happen.
Well, we have Marin on the committee, right? One of our members is a member of the school
Marin
committee.
is,
Right.
he's
So
very,
that's
very
a
active.
connection.
And do we
Whether he's
know whether
talking to get up
Marin
there,
is-
whether he's talking to get up there or not, I don't know.
Do we know Marin is on board with what we're talking about?
Yes.
I'm sure he's on board with
Yeah,
feasibility, figuring out the feasibility of it.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, from the school committee standpoint, certainly, cost is going to be first and foremost.
Sure.
Like, they don't want to do anything that's going to cut into
Right.
the budget that they're going to have to. And they've already seen the transportation costs go up this year because of the increased needs for the new school.
Right.
Back to what Misty was saying before about the multiple paths, I think, Cassie correctly pointed out that like the buying thing that's like way too big of a lift, like fiscally, right? There's going to be too much money required to do that. So the other potential path, I think there is a second path, and this is one that we've looked at a little bit too, which is sort of like the Highland Electric path. There's another company that will do they own the things. They basically charge you on a yearly basis for their use, the same way like Durham would, and that they provide all the infrastructure. They worry about the charging, and all the other stuff, and then, you contract with them.
And is this the company, though, that does not provide the drivers? Is that?
As far as I know, they don't.
That was the one, right, they did
Yeah.
not have
As
the
far as I know,
drivers.
they
That was the
don't.
other
And
What if we
wrinkle.
did a presentation to the school committee?
I think that's a good thing to do at some point.
And
I
then
think
we show them, we say, all right, we'll need to get some numbers, because we'll have to say, all right, we've decided not to go down the buying path, and here's why. It costs this amount of money for buses, it's gonna cost this amount of money for infrastructure, it's gonna cost this, but here's this other path.
Yeah.
Convince Durham
Yeah.
to get on board and show them the feasibility of that, and say,
Yeah. I don't think it's our prerogative to say we've chosen not to go to own it.
Exactly.
But we
That
say
should be-
there's problems
yes,
with it.
that's
Here's the
your right.
problems, here's the pros and
we can
cons.
show them, we can show them we can show them alternatives and say, all right, you've got,
Right.
we can buy, we can go down this path. We can show them the different things and let them decide, since they're such a heavy participant in this process.
Sure, and we
So-
need connections over there, and, yeah.
And one of the things
I would like
about,
to work with somebody, somebody from the school committee. We have had these conversations with the business services manager who talked with the superintendent of schools. Allison
in
Leclerc.
Easthampton?
Yeah,
Yeah.
over our letter we sent them about inquiring, telling them of our interest back in March, and would they consider putting some provisions in there that might elicit some bids for electric buses, and so they went over that, and we thought about it, gave us some feedback, but they also said it was too late in the process for this year.
right. So the other question I have, which I think somebody brought up in one of our other meetings, is that the only problem with leasing vehicles is that we would have to provide the drivers.
Right.
Which means that we would have to provide, not only pay them, but pay for the insurance, pay for any other, I don't know whether they get health insurance, but that, we'd have to factor in that price and really find out what it would be, because that would be added on to whatever the leasing cost
Yeah.
would be.
Right,
Yeah, this is a-
presumably the lease should be cheaper because we're not paying the labor
Right.
that the company's
I would hope
company's not
so.
providing us, the lease should be cheaper, approximately, to offset that.
And what about the charging? Are they close enough so that the vehicles would go back to them to charge, or would we have to provide the charging place?
I think that's a discovery. I think we could figure out in
Yeah, that's
discovery,
what-
right? That's
yeah,
like a
that's in
further-
discovery.
Yeah.
Because that would also,
You
of
want
course,
it
be
fairly
an
centrally
expense.
located, both for efficiency of the bus system in general,
Yeah.
cut down on the mileage, but also to cut down on, when these things have limited driving ranges,
Right.
and you don't want to spend the first 10 miles getting to your pickup point, your
Yeah.
first pickup point.
So it's right. I mean, it's a good point that we're not gonna be able to sketch out like full budgets, full process here
No.
for any of this stuff right now. And certainly we wouldn't be able to do it just with this
But
group
if
and
we were
then
going to
bring
do
it
a
out to the world.
presentation to the school committee, I think that we would have to acknowledge
Let's
or find out, would Easthampton have to provide a charging station site? And what would that cost? And
Yeah,
what would the labor actually mean?
Right.
Like how many drivers? Because that would be something that they're going to ask, I would think.
The other thing is the
Well, we're gonna-
timing of the presentation, because I'm thinking the
Yeah.
school committee may not have the stomach right now.
Oh no, not right now, and that's
A couple months down the road.
Yeah.
yeah, which will give us some time to
Let's
prepare a
say
little
in
bit.
February when, nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Certainly over the
I
winter.
don't think we want to
no
wait
one's
too long.
staring down a contract,
Well, we don't want to wait too long. We also want to be mindful of these other things.
Sure.
But I think, a few months gives us some time to, again, do some more, discovery and due diligence on our side, learn some more things, see what else is out there, have some more conversations with other
Right.
towns. At the same time, like, now's the time to start getting, talking to the school committee and saying, hey, this is something we're looking at. We'd love to, let's start getting on their radar for November, for February, whatever it's
That's
going
why
to
I
be.
would
And
love if we could get Maren to a meeting, somehow work around his schedule.
yeah.
Maren and Jamie, we
Right.
could pull them into just one meeting in the next 3 months. I think that would be marvelous.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have a specially scheduled meeting that Maren can come to, even if it's not at one of our regular scheduled meetings. What do you think?
like a one-off, it's
Well,
still.
we can always do a
meeting,
one-off,
but-
yeah, as
Yeah,
long
that's
as we
good,
get, as long as I get a week's notice to get an agenda on the same
And it
calendar.
could just be about this.
Yeah, we can check and see if he's gonna be good for, these upcoming dates when we move it back to Monday.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while, there was a time he was at all the meetings, right? Like, the Monday
Right.
wasn't an
Yeah.
issue, and like, again, Zoom helped, certainly, because he had other stuff going on, but, yeah, he'd be good. I mean, the superintendent is on the school committee. I know Ben Hersey, he lives around the corner from me, who's on the school committee. There's some other people.
And these are people who you think would be very open.
Ben would definitely be supportive of something like this, yeah.
Can I propose a course of action here?
Yes,
To start
that's-
going
Yes.
this. One is that whether or not we get Maren to a meeting, I'm gonna call Maren to raise this question that people are raising about, what do you think would be good timing? He knows that it's gonna be
Good-
important to
good
start
point.
getting this in their head, start getting feedback from them, have them think about
Yeah.
when would be a good time and what would be the right, setting, what would be the right thing we offer them, a little PowerPoint or whatever.
Right.
So ask him that. Try to set up a meeting. Now, I don't know, maybe I'll talk with the new Easthampton Transportation Manager, who should be starting shortly, Nick, and see if they would want to go,
Time to talk to them.
see if he'd want to go
Yeah.
together and go talk with Durham about what they're thinking about electric buses down the line and what they see as the
Yeah.
possibilities, and the fact that there might be other school districts together who might want to be putting out.
Excuse me, is he the transportation director for the schools?
Well, he's the
He's the
business
business
manager
manager.
for the city. I guess they do more than schools, the business manager, no? It's not just the schools?
No, Dale's
It's
position was just schools.
Just schools,
Just
okay,
the
so he's
business
just
manager
business
for the
manager for schools, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do something to do the notes. What is this man's name?
Nick something, I don't know.
Nick
his last
something,
name,
okay,
yeah.
that's good.
And then the
I'll
third
figure it
thing
out.
is the thing, something we talked about all along, which is to set up a time, and we should decide whether it's for one of our meetings, or it's a city council meeting, or or a school, whatever it is, who will host it, get Highland Electric to come in and do a presentation, because that's the other approach. Meanwhile, I'll be talking to Chris Mason, and I've got the contact with the Northampton bus, program, to see where they're heading.
Yeah.
And start taking those steps. And then I've gathered enough information here, I could start putting the outlines of a presentation together you're hearing bits and pieces, and it doesn't, it doesn't all hang together, and one thing conflicts with another. If we kind of
Yeah.
lay it out systematically over the next couple of months, it'd be easier for people to look at the whole picture and understand it. So I would work on that.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you very much for pursuing this. I'm not giving up on this because it
Sure,
seems so
it's-
hopeless.
Well, let me point one thing out. I don't know if this
I've got
falls
it.
into it, but
We have the short time frame to look at, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think good idea for Jamie Webb, and there's federal grants, there's state things, there's gonna be other programs and things
She's a
that are.
whiz. She just knows the little nooks and crannies of how to navigate a lot of these agencies.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, our planning department punches way above its weight in this town, no
Yeah.
doubt. So it's like, they do take advantage of lots of things.
you guys weigh in every morning?
Do you want me to reach out to Jamie, just send her an email and say, hey, we
Sure.
really would love to see you. We've got a couple of things we want to chat with you about in the next
Yeah,
3
see if she can
months.
come to one of the next couple meetings,
I'll
yeah.
say, hey, just
Knowing that we may
what month
push
is
it
a
back
good
till
month for you?
5:30 or 6,
Yeah.
depending. But, yeah, because again, she was always, when I first started, she was always the one that was at our meetings. Like, just sort of keeping tabs on things,
Yeah.
talking to us, talking through stuff with us and everything else, so. Okay, so I think, yeah, so we got a few different prongs of that attack, and like focusing on the school committee and like collecting information, getting these conversations and potential partnerships going locally are all good things to be doing to push us in the right direction right now. We have a bunch of other potential things on here, some stuff we've talked about before, just kind of like general ideas that are kicking around. Whether it's like, there was the River Valley Co-op solar program that was open for people to apply for.
Is that still available, I wonder?
Don't know. I haven't refreshed on that.
Website, see.
And also that was more just like, pushing that out there for people on sort of, because you could, convincing or like, letting people know that it's available. Community solar generally being a Another one, I just happened to run into somebody I know yesterday up in Greenfield, and they were like, "Oh, you still working in solar?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they started asking me all these questions, and I was like, "Yeah, you can do community solar." And they were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "This is exactly why we need to get the word out that you can actually just sign up for, there's a few still open community solar programs in Western Mass right now."
They still have it on their website.
They still have it on their website? Okay, yeah, I imagine the subscription to that is like relatively slow.
They have a big ad every week in the Gazette or the Minder. I don't
think
know.
it's the Gazette, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about, did somebody email about the solar production? Was that you?
Yeah.
Where you messaged somebody about that?
Oh, I messaged Marin, and he fed me back to Cassie, who has it all there. But the big question, she showed me on the screens. It's a nice tracking, very nicely graphic presentation, all the data. But
Can the
question I have is,
Wait, what are we talking about? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're jumping around.
Solar
This is the
production.
solar production at the school.
Oh, okay.
at the
Oh,
schools.
being able to see it online. Is that what
For
you're
the
talking
school
about? That we
solar
talked about
system.
last time? Okay.
See it and promote
So it's
it.
up?
It's
Can
been up.
anyone?
So I don't know that anyone can see it. I had to get a special login to
Okay.
access it, which I got when I started taking over the Green Communities annual report
Right.
duties. But I don't know in terms of accessibility to the public. I'm not sure.
who's in charge of that infrastructure? I mean, we know there's a vendor who put it on. Is it the school maintenance department, or is it the DPW? Who's like in charge as a capital item that now belongs to the town? This is ours, right? We're not renting that space out.
I'm assuming that it's
These
part
are
of
these are our
facilities management
panels.
for the school.
We bought the panels, right?
I assume the systems belong to the
I
city.
think we bought the panels.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting so much savings on
Thinking
our.
the planning department has a hand
It's a
in
good
that.
question for
So,
Nick.
the thing I want to know is not just can we display this. That would be great if we could, get. First of all, you need to get permission from somebody, I suppose, to put that information up there on the web. I don't know who. You
Right.
could say yes, but somebody could then turn around and give you grief about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So the other part is, if something goes down, is that your responsibility to report it, or whose is that? I mean, there should be some kind of
Right.
chain of responsibility with that system, so
Yeah.
that if there's problems, we don't find out 2 months later. Of
Well,
course,
that-
you're looking at it. and
Are
not-
you
that's
the only
not-
person monitoring it?
That I don't know. I check it once a year for the annual report.
There must be somebody
But
else.
don't-
But we don't know
You
who
don't
it
think
is.
that's fun just to look at every morning when you have your coffee? That's the graphs.
I recall Marin saying, wasn't there an issue at the high school at one point where like something wasn't
Yes,
working
for-
for a long time,
Oh,
and they didn't even realize
It was shut
till
off. He
like,
said the
like a
thing was
couple
sh-
months or something?
The inverter or something was
Yeah.
shut off, or
Does the school use that energy for its functioning directly?
It was supposed to, but it did, remember? It
Well,
was-
you're right, it will if it's producing, otherwise it'll just pull it from the grid.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, there's a whole system that balances that,
Right,
right?
so
Right, but this
Like
is all
that.
summer when the school is out and is short in the winter when they need it most, but.
So, yeah, I would say maybe that's a question for Nick, right? If you're talking to the business manager of the schools, like, hey, do you know these solar systems? Like, one thing we want to know is like, we'd like to
Yeah.
help promote that these are producing energy but we don't know who monitors them. We don't know if we could get that.
Do you want to
know.
talk to Nick? Or you want me to talk?
I'm happy to. Let's see.
When does he start? He starts like
He's just
tomorrow?
starting.
Brush that responsibility right off his shoulder there.
No, I'm happy to do it.
I met with Nick and say, okay, well, Nick. now-
I mean, he's not,
Yeah, no, you
first
can
day,
monitor
he's
it.
not gonna have the whole lay of the land.
Yeah, but
Right.
Really, so,
You say you're starting next week?
she left.
I can figure out.
She left today. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's set for him to immediately pick up. I don't know how they can go without a business manager for.
Oh, I don't know why
Weeks or months.
he would be informed on the solar panels. If he's just the business manager, would that deal with that at all? Or would
well,
that
just
be-
from a cost
Facility
standpoint.
assets.
Well, they
School
have
has
to
an
do all
asset,
this
yeah.
stuff about, the recs and because Nicole was talking about that last time, that there's some weird place on their budget that says municipal aggregation, but it doesn't really mean what we think of, and they're gonna have to like mess with all that because they get money, they're getting, I guess, money because they're producing electricity from their solar panels, so they must be monitoring,
The school? The
the
school?
The solar panels that were already in existence. I mean, they have to be monitoring somehow
She's got that.
the recs and all that stuff. No, but there must be, no one else is monitoring it, that it only happens once a year?
Yeah.
Right, well, that's the
Yeah,
question.
no, you're right. I mean, somebody who pays the electric bill or doesn't pay the
Right,
electric
that's
bill has
what-
got to have, be checking
I
that.
might start with DPW when I
Yeah.
do my investigation, and then I'll just go from there, follow the thread, and see who I can find and what I have to figure
Thank
out.
you.
So I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be talking to Baron about other stuff. I'll just ask him if he happens to know the answer. I'll pass it on.
Right, as a school, he's on the school building committee, which is like another piece of, you should know. I mean, because when you put a solar thing in, like, there's a couple different ways it goes. Either it's like, you know, the monitoring is either done right by somebody on the owner's side, or there's like an outsourced, you know, asset manager or something like that that's monitoring a whole fleet of
Right.
projects.
Yeah.
And when they notice something and they identify, they go, they'll trigger maintenance to go, or like
Yeah.
call the owner and say, hey, you know, we noticed your inverter's down, better go do something about that.
Yeah, I can
Kind of
even
thing. So I don't
try to
know.
work backwards and see, like, call, what was it, Solar Ed or something? It says on there. And see
Solar
if
Edge, maybe?
No,
Yeah.
it's solar, something else, solar.
Yeah, who do they contact? Are they in contact with anyone?
Okay.
So start there too if I can't figure it out here. But yeah, I'm here every day, so it's easier for me to kind of jump around to all these different places and see what I can figure out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm off next week, but the week after that, I should be able to start.
All right, that's okay.
And I guess just to make this clear, like, our goal with this is what? Like public education, right? And just like being able to have this out there somewhere so that people can see that it's happening. Like, I mean, that's kind of my thought on it, but you know, I don't want to have Cassie spend a ton of her time for something without a clear,
Well, yeah.
clear goal at the
Just
end.
for my education though, or our education of like, who is managing it? Who
Right.
is monitoring?
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, it also is relevant because at some point there will be solar panels put up on some of the other buildings. You know, there's all this
True.
money coming in, and it just seems like it would make sense to find out how the system functions.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we are the Energy Advisory Committee after all.
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds good though. I feel like I know what to do next, so
Okay.
I'll be prepared for the next meeting.
Okay. Great.
So I'd just like to go back to the Community Solar River Valley Co-op Solar
Sure,
Program.
sure.
We talked about how we might be more able to provide the community with this kind of information, but we haven't really come up with a way to do it. I did leave a voicemail, it was today, I have to admit, because I forgot that I was going to do it, about press releases, how press releases work in terms of the city, how do we get into that. But do we want to have a more, I don't know, elevated website location for ourselves and start putting this kind of information on it, or do we just think no one's going to look at it anyway and why
Well, we
bother?
have a piece on the agenda for that generally.
Oh, we do? I'm
For all
sorry.
those. No, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
I'm just thinking like, I think that's a good point though.
Yeah, no, it's not
Feeding
letter
to-
H. there.
Okay, all right, I'll wait then. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, because all these things below, like the projects that were, you know, aggregation and electric bus stuff, we actually have, we're a little bit further along with. All this other stuff is kind of these general, even the Columbia Gas settlement thing, it's sort of like, what do we do and how do we get, word out? Like, what's the best way for us to, increase our reach and to increase
I only
the
pointed it out
messaging.
to say that I think that what you're asking applies to a lot of the stuff on this
Exactly.
list.
Yeah, that's kind of what it
You're
all-
right,
I agree
absolutely.
that it's
kinda what it
important
is.
for a lot of things.
It's
Okay.
the solar production, it's the, you know,
Okay.
lending for
Sorry,
low-income residents. it's
let's move
stretch
on down the
goals.
list until we get there then.
No, that's fine. Well, why don't we let's do the Columbia Gas settlement thing
Okay.
real quick.
Okay.
And then if there's an update from you, Cassie.
Yeah, I do generally have an update,
Okay.
and I was able to get, this is from one of the presentations that we had in one of our meetings, and I just thought it was really helpful for laying out, like, some of the information in here has changed since then, but it was just good for laying out what the process is going to be, and it's kind of like, the state is creating the program, and it's something that was reiterated at our last meeting, it was kind of like, the state has the final say of what's in the program, and they're including Northampton and Easthampton to help put input into it, but they're going to ultimately craft it, and then we are going to help get that to the public and help people like actually utilize it. So, what did they say? So, it basically is like owned by Mass DOR right now. Then it gets kind of passed off to Mass CEC. They're like creating the final plan, and then they're going to procure this like lead vendor. That vendor is going to provide this kind of concierge / energy coach service. that then people can use to kind of convert to heat pumps. And my understanding is that the money directly can go to people getting these heat pumps. I just want to make sure. Yeah, there's like, people will get this money directly towards the heat pumps, but also for this like kind of evaluation service. So we're kind of just waiting to get this final program from
Okay.
the state is where it's at right now.
Is there a target rollout for that?
So didn't you say last time that it sounded like there isn't actually going to be that much money for heat pumps by the time they pay for the concierge?
So there were these two services. There's two scenarios, and I need to try to look at notes if we've landed on one yet or not. Let's see.
I think what we said in the meeting was that they actually fund the installation of ground source heat pumps, that the budget won't go terribly far into terms of too many customers.
So there's two scenarios. One scenario basically gives more money towards actually getting a heat pump, like heat pump incentive is what it's called, and that was projected to reach 70 households.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a second scenario where there would still be heat pump incentive money going, but it would be lesser, and it would hopefully reach 140 households. So either way, it's not huge numbers that we're working with here, but
In our
it's still
town or
nice.
between the two?
That's a good question, and
Okay.
it's not specified, and I can't remember, but I think basically the way it's supposed to work out is 70% is going towards Northampton and 30% is going to
Right.
Easthampton.
Right.
So it's, yeah, like I said, it's not going to be a lot of people, but hopefully we'll still make a bit of a difference. So,
And I'm sorry, Cassie, did
Yes.
you say what was the time frame for them?
no, I don't have one. I think our next meeting has not yet been set, but I have to double check the calendar to see if the next meeting has been
Is there a
set.
press release for the?
Not yet, it's
Yeah.
very
and
early
if-
So I-
Well, and who would somebody be doing, once it is worthy, or somebody be doing a press release?
potentially the state will do that, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
So I have another question. As you know, I'm very suspect about the concierge service.
Mhm.
But if they just did the heat pump incentives, how much would that, what percentage of actually installing heat pumps would that pay for?
Well, in this, I don't know about percentage of the total, but of these two scenarios, it was either, in either scenario, it was 2,000 to 1,500 for the concierge costs, and then the heat pump incentives for the first scenario was $5,000 to $8,000 towards the pumps,
Uh-huh.
and then the second scenario was 2,000 to 4,000 towards the pumps.
Okay.
And then they also were talking about incorporating, I believe it's mass saves into it and helping people get some money through that. And this would be a pathway to kind of guide people through that or connect people to that process as well. So it might be more than was done before.
That's, first one is pretty significant.
My vote is for the
5 to
first
8
one.
plus mass save, 5 to 8 plus mass save doesn't leave them with much left that they gotta pay for.
Yeah, my vote is do 70, but because those people will all actually get them. I think most of the other people, it's not enough money. If they're really low income,
Doesn't
how are
sound
they
like
going to get the rest of the money?
Is
to pay for it?
anybody tallying votes over there? I don't think they're looking for our,
The target audience also, well, that's true. And then the target audience for this program also is not necessarily the lowest income groups. It's kind of these mid-incomes. And the reasoning
Oh.
for that was because of, they were kind of saying there's a lot of programs out there already for the lower income, but there's these mid people who are not making
okay.
it in
All
there.
right.
So that is the focus. So potentially they might have a little more capability to do
Okay.
so.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I want to
So-
correct something really quickly that I said earlier.
Okay.
In case you find out the way it really works and then come back at me. I misspoke about the money going to Durham. What I read about the grant for buses is that the money goes to bus dealers. So Bluebird or International, who
Okay.
sells the bus to
Durham.
Durham,
Yeah.
or to the city. But either way, the bus dealer,
They get, but
they can get
that means they would
the
reduce
federal incentive
price.
so that they have to translate, that has to translate into a much lower bill for
That's
whoever's
interesting,
buying it
isn't
from.
it?
That's the right way of
Okay.
explaining it, sorry.
That's very interesting.
So, to tie it back in, so Jasmine, when this rolls out, right, talking about getting it to the public, getting the information out there. And again, is that going to be on you all to do, or like on the state, or?
So that was the other piece of it, is that for administrative purposes, like the concierge service is going to help with the administrative side of things, but they definitely will be working with the cities, like an administrative person with the cities, which I'm assuming will be me. And then they're hoping for maybe some volunteer help, and I was thinking maybe the advisory committee could help to some degree, but what that capacity would be is not yet known to me.
Okay.
And I didn't know, there was a question of like, yeah, how many volunteers we need to, and what would they be doing? But I think we just need, oh yeah, they were talking about doing like mailers maybe to go out to people, to residents who we think are meeting this standard, and doing general public outreach just to let people know that it exists. So yeah.
Okay.
I would think that, I mean, they're gonna write, the state's gonna write the press release, but hopefully if they put you down as a contact for further information from the local perspective, if the newspaper or a TV station or somebody wants to talk to you, talk about it, that's how they bring us in.
Okay.
My guess, past experience, in this situation, the way they're taking control of it, we're not writing the press release.
Yeah, maybe not. We'll see. The big thing that they were talking about was like doing like a mailing postcard mailer, everything, like trying to is it more targeted?
To supplement
kind of looking for this more moderate income community. So it's
Like when we do aggregation, we're gonna have to do like a whole mailer or something. Probably it's gonna go out to everybody. But then, how do we engage? I think this is a question we've had forever. But like, if we want to get information out to the community, right? Like, what's the best?
I think it's a three-dimensional thing. I don't think there's any one great way.
True.
I think it's sort of a pronged campaign. And one of the ideas we were talking about, and molding a couple things here, we have Community Solar and River Valley Co-op solar program. We have solar lending for low-income residents. We have organizations that theoretically provide funding for low-income residents to obtain solar.
Right.
You know how River Valley Co-op does that monthly donation spotlight? I was wondering if we could approach them and say, would you be willing to do a month of donations
Think it's
for
registered?
this low-income organization with a focus on solar lending, sponsored by EAC?
So, I'm sorry, I don't really know what we're talking about here. The solar lending for low-income residents, what, is that a
Mass Aid?
program? Oh, we're talking about Mass Aid.
There's a separate thing. I put that on there. I'll have to go back and find my link or notes.
Maybe we could pick an agency.
But there is state level, for low income people that want to do solar, there is funds available to them to help them.
I think that's a great idea. I'm sorry, I just...
Well, no, and at the register, they love picking local organizations. So if we could find a local agency, Jamie, I know you've got a head full of these because you were working with these pretty significantly, I think. I remember a year or so back, right?
Possibly.
Yeah, or am I remembering wrong? I could be remembering wrong.
It's okay.
But we could approach River Valley and sort of meld a couple things together here where we're doing a little bit of community outreach, but we're letting them do it for us.
I suppose we should at least table like on a Saturday or something as well outside.
And maybe have a table. The social media just vexes me because it's just a conundrum in terms of how we are regulated with social media and in terms of the way people use social media. It just feels like the Wild West still.
Right.
And so much bad information ends up getting generated out of the simplest post.
And the other thought I had was a community spotlight. You know how we have that common, the Rotary. Could we do a community spotlight where we focus on either a company in Easthampton that's doing solar, a resident who just obtained solar and they love their experience, or a company that's transitioning to some solar, doing a hybrid thing, and we just do a spotlight on them that month and have some kind of sign at the common or some other recognizable place where we were allowed to put up a sign saying solar spotlight for the month or energy spotlight for the month on company XYZ or resident so-and-so. I don't know, that was.
It also makes me think, that Easthampton media they're always very happy to have, I mean, they'll take anything, basically. If we were gonna do that, we could do like an interview or something.
Well, I had, Connie, you're channeling me, I actually wrote that down as like an interview with a leader in the area. A school leader,
Yeah.
a organizational leader, a business leader who is a proponent of solar. It doesn't have to be from Easthampton, but somebody that would agree to speak to us in an interview with somebody on the committee. And as Connie suggested, throw that to the Easthampton media. A lot of little things these are, but they're like subtle ways of putting a message out there with getting around the whole social media monster.
Right, or that could be maybe a small part of it. I like the idea of like the solar spotlight
I do too.
thing where we can sort of choose something, I mean, because that's almost something that you can start to do a press release around too, right? You can you got a monthly thing, and like whether it's you do like a quick Q&A with them, and like that goes in the press release, or it's a link to like an online interview that Easthampton Media posts or something like that. That's just like a couple minutes long, or just like brings attention to a specific issue. Like that could be
Question I have,
a recurring thing.
and I just don't understand. I don't know how this would work. If we highlighted a provider, how do we decide? Because that's starting to be an ad in a certain way.
Right.
We
Like
like a provider.
I thought you said that one thing's going to do is like
Business leader.
a business
I
that
meant
provides
like
solar.
a business leader
That's
where
installing their own.
somebody who enacted solar took some sort of
Oh,
solar
I misunderstood you. I
position.
thought you were also saying that also installers, like
Well,
highlighting an installer.
we have some companies here in Easthampton.
I know
that are
we do.
doing work.
And I love that idea. I'm just wondering, like, what are the
Rules.
rules?
Yeah, we just have to be
What are the
even-handed
rules?
about
That's
it.
my
It's
question.
just some risk there.
Right.
But it's still,
Unless we invited all of them to a round table or something, and then it would be okay. Assuming we knew who all of them were.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we do have to be mindful of not promoting specific business over others.
But, and also just a leader, so, someone who, like Maren, someone who just knows a lot about all this and can talk about it.
this came up in the context of the discussion of the Green Energy Fair.
Yes.
Renewable Energy,
Right.
Clean Energy Fair or something, and bringing vendors in, but not making sure there was more than one or whatever, that everyone's had an opportunity to come in and present
Right.
their information to people.
And I love the idea of a Green Energy Fair. It's like a huge undertaking to do something like that.
Yeah.
Huge. That's
You
the
can
I mean, we all
do
do-
Cadillac and you can do a Volkswagen, Green Energy Fair, just to start with and build, whatever.
I mean, if you're doing it around like a one-day thing for a few hours, it helps if you can like piggyback on another thing. Like doing something at River Valley sounds interesting because they
Yeah.
have their own program. They could be like promoting their, solar thing that they've got.
Register.
Well,
There's a
yeah, plus
community
that
room.
piece, like we could, if you have a table set up outside on a nice day, like with tons of people
That's pretty good coverage.
coming through and like have all this other information out there for people, talking to people. Yeah, I don't know.
Did I see have I seen a community room there, like you can have meetings in?
Do they have a community room
I don't
at
know.
River Valley?
They should. I'm thinking, I saw something there the other day and I didn't know what it was. But I'm gonna look
If-
up.
If we had a tabling, what would that look like though? Do we have any literature that we can, because that's the problem.
we gotta
We gotta develop stuff.
Costs and everything, yeah.
We gotta work on
Right, that's the whole thing with like an energy fair. I mean, I guess we were bringing, other groups are gonna bring their own materials, or you can have some sort of interesting demonstration or something like that.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, that, maybe just doing something, even if it's really small, at another event, just like
Yeah,
we have an electric vehicle that people can look at, something just really simple. And then maybe next time they'll do something a little more interesting, takes a little more energy.
I feel like we could use subcommittees.
I know, right?
There aren't enough of them.
And for the reason,
I'll be a subcommittee.
being
You be a
that rather than everybody having responsibility for everything, that
Well,
some people can kind of focus on some things and they can have some continuity and they work with a team, one or two other people if
Yeah.
possible. There could be an outreach and education
Well, again, I think
subcommittee
we
that
can-
works on this.
I think that, I don't think it has to be an official thing. I think it can be kind of like within the context of this, divvying up different elements of what we're doing. I mean, you focus on, Misty and Connie have a lot of good ideas around this or thoughts around things that we might try. So, and we can make that sort of like the ad hoc, social outreach, community education piece, like trying to figure out, what we.
The other
let's
thing
start
that we-
with that small idea. Let's do that. and-
Our local Mass Audubon, Jonah is very interested in doing things. I noticed that they finally have gotten into the Easthampton public schools.
Mhm.
They took them years to get that to happen, but they are another organization that we should get in touch with and see what they're up to. I can do that. I know Jonah.
Okay.
I did stuff with him before, just to see what he might be interested in doing with us, because they're one of the things that they're supposed to do, from the people who are running everything, is get more involved in the community. That's one of their
Okay.
directives.
This is from like the Audubon
Yeah.
sanctuary out over
Yeah.
on Arcadia there?
Arcadia,
Okay.
yeah.
Do
Because
they have solar there?
they have a huge solar
Yeah.
panel in their
And
their
the EV
fields.
chargers.
Yeah, that's right. They got all those
Yeah,
right,
we
all
have
the
a
turning
small-
fields,
We
right?
have a small array back there.
Yeah, right in the farm field, it's right by the trail there, yeah. I don't
They
know
got a
why.
couple, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll get in touch with Jonah and see what they're up to. I've been interested
Okay.
for a while and see what they might be interested in. Because they might be, they do a music event every year.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're still doing that.
yeah, Arcadia
so.
Folk Festival, yeah.
I wonder whether we could do something there, just set something up.
Yeah, there's a
Ask
great.
them if there's a lot of Easthampton people come, because that's our target audience. If they
Well-
come from all over the valley and New England for this festival, then it's sort of diluting our, potentially diluting effort.
I wonder if they even would know that. I guess they
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, they
Sure
may
they
not
did
know.
some.
They may not know, yeah.
But actually, they're a good opportunity. So one thing about publicity, right, and like social awareness is partner with a bigger organization that has more reach. So like Arcadia is kind of a good example of that, like with Audubon, right? Make them like a solar spotlight. We turn
Well,
that
that's
into
true.
like a press release from our side, like maybe there's like the inaugural one, like, we're kicking off this spotlight series on, local energy issues and things like that, and like here's our first one, and it's Mass Audubon,
Yeah.
and it's Jonah, let's do a quick Q&A or a feature around that, and then they promote it as well, like, right, we can get it out there, we can do a press release, but then like Audubon and like Arcadia pick it up, and they get it out there, and that just broadens
Yeah.
who might see it and how far it can get.
We also have a newsletter, and if we found out how many, if they had 150 households from Easthampton, they're Audubon members,
Well,
that
you
might
don't have to join if you live in Easthampton. You can get in for free. So I don't know. People might not
What?
bother. Yeah. Maybe
Northampton
a lot of
and
people
East Hampton
don't join.
residents technically are automatically members.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a member,
I've been
but
paying.
it's
Yeah,
possible.
it's on the
Why would they
side.
tell me?
I mean, it's good for you to do that. It's
Yeah.
A worthy,
I'm
a worthy
a member
organization.
too, but
All right.
yeah.
Okay, that's it.
So my general feeling is sometimes it's better to do things first and ask and apologize later.
Sure.
And around some of these littler things like interviews,
Mm-hmm.
I think if we focus on the energy and say they're from this company, but we're here to talk about energy, and then let somebody come back to us and say, oh, no, you really can't do that.
You promote,
And
right.
let them explain why. I'd rather run with that than say, let's ask permission for 2 or 3 more months and get nowhere, than to do something more tangibly.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
And-
about what we call it, really. If it's
Exactly.
information about solar
Right.
energy,
Informational energy.
then we just
interview.
happen to be talking to this provider,
Right.
this installer.
Right.
Yeah.
I think like we could finesse it enough
Yeah.
where we could skate by without it looking like if it were a business leader, or
Mm-hmm.
without looking like it's a promo for XYZ business.
If you're doing a
But-
video, it's not the same thing as a town taking out an ad and saying in the paper and saying we're endorsing somebody. You're doing a video. You're
Plus,
interviewing.
you could say,
Where does
"I'm
the video?
sorry,
Where does
I'm
the
a
video get
volunteer."
played? Goes
Right.
online.
Right.
The video
So
goes
sue
on.
me.
But I don't think we want to piss off. We don't want to piss off the other solar vendors either.
Well, that's
We-
true.
We need
Yeah.
their help and participation, and sense that they have an equal shot at things in town. And
Yeah.
Well, what we could do is just set a date. We're going to be talking about solar installation and we're inviting you to
Ask
come,
them.
and whoever comes are the people we talk to. Because they won't all come.
We could have a panel,
That's what I'm
bring them all in
saying,
at a
yeah.
panel and just it's like public hearing. We could ask them all kinds of questions that we want to know about
What's their incentive to show up there exactly?
It's
Well, we'll spread the
publicity.
information.
Yeah,
We're gonna spread
how we
At the East
publicize
Hampton
it?
Public Media, I assume some people
Well,
watch
it is a shill for their company or whatever organization they
It's
represent.
like, yeah, as long as we have a clear idea of how it's getting out there, how it's
Yeah.
being marketed or pushed or publicized.
There's an organization that's for developers, I think, they used to have meetings in Northampton at the place where there used to be a train station, or maybe, do you know where I mean? I'm
Yeah,
not familiar with everything around here.
the depot.
But they had meetings once a month, and they had people come and talk, and it was actually, I went to some of their meetings just because I was interested. I mean, there are people who want to do this, and sometimes there
Yeah.
weren't very many people at those meetings, and it wasn't televised anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's just, go wherever you can to talk about your service. So I think that we would get some participation if we did that.
A couple other ideas for partnerships. We could look at partnering with like EDIC, another local committee.
I don't know what that is.
The Economic Development Commission or committee, like another city group like
Okay.
ours that focus. So maybe they would have ideas about something. Maybe if we do it in partnership with them. Or the Chamber of Commerce is the other one I was thinking
Oh,
of.
yeah.
Like go to the Chamber of Commerce, see what members they have that they could bring to us. Say, hey, we want to do this energy spotlight. Who would you recommend from your membership that we talk to? And then maybe they can do it in conjunction with us, right?
I love those ideas.
That they are helping us promote their members that way. And that's some of the cover that we get for
Yeah.
like promoting a business. It's like, oh, we're
Exactly.
doing it with the Chamber of Commerce and it's their
Yeah,
their
sponsored by
clients.
EAC or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's like the energy, this week's energy champion and solar spotlight, whatever you want to call it, kind of thing.
I love those ideas.
Related, just a quick blip. I think I sent out, but I have it here again, I can send again, but about a grant that Amherst got for outreach. Did I send out an article?
Yeah, you
on it?
did.
Okay.
Mhm.
Didn't say a whole lot about it, but they got a state
Right.
grant for 25,000 or something like that to do outreach among tenants. I'm not sure what they're gonna tell tenants. Turn down your thermostat and save the landlord money. I don't know what they're gonna tell tenants, but they're gonna do energy outreach with tenants in Amherst. And so they must be thinking of it. And there's a committee. It's a family and community or something outreach committee there. I think one thing would be to check what other towns are doing along these lines and have had success with if we have the time to do
Sure.
it. you know?
It's funny that you mentioned that because like the Washington Post this morning, I was looking at sort of like, 8 energy tips for you, even if you're a renter, like things you can do, like easy things, like low cost. And I swear to God, it's like the exact same list from like 20 years ago. And just like there's nobody's come up with anything more than like unplug your appliances. Like
Yeah.
okay, really, let's stay in the realm of the feasible here. It's literally like the same stuff, and I can't even believe that they're still writing these articles
Yeah.
in 2022 here.
Where'd it come from? Washington Post?
It was in the Washington Post of all places, yeah. So I was like
Just a
surprised that it was
filler.
like, I guess so, yeah. Somebody had some column inches to fill. Anyway, but it's to the point, like, what's the right information to get out there? How do you get it out? And we have some really good new ideas, I think, percolating around here.
Yeah,
This.
so to give it tangibility, I'll reach out to Jamie. That's one of the things I'm gonna do.
Mhm.
I will also reach out to River Valley Co-op.
Okay.
I'll start seeing if I can make some inroads there relationship-wise. Because I would imagine they're not just gonna let me walk in and say, yeah, okay, you want energy? Let's put it at the cash register. So
Right.
let me see who I can reach out to about that and maybe some tabling information, what they want to see, because I'm sure they have lots of people who want to do a table there for different things.
They might be more interested in doing it around at our municipal aggregation,
Yeah.
and that would be a good way to get information out about it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they may want us to have something very specific that we're
Yeah.
pushing,
I'll start there and see what they want.
Yeah.
Just talk to them first and
Makes
see
sense.
what they want to see and how warm they are, how warm of a reception we get to that. And you know, because they may have their very own ideas of community relations about what they want to do. So hopefully they can
If you're
find
talking to
space for
them,
us.
would you also ask them about the discount that they give for electricity for low income? Like, is there
Yeah.
anything that we could be doing to get the word out in East Hampton? Because
Yeah.
they still have it on their website, so they must still have openings for people to participate.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think I got that information from a press release from the mayor, which is where I shared it from initially.
Oh, I remember, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. But we really didn't do anything about getting the word out about that, which
Right.
we should.
Yes, I will ask them about that. And I'm also happy to just kind of see if I can put together a list of like potential like stakeholders who might be an interesting monthly spotlight thing.
And kind of, do you want to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce?
Sure, and I'm also going to talk to Arcadia.
Oh, right, Arcadia
Yeah.
was the other one.
We can merge our lists too,
Yeah.
whatever we come up with. And
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to do reach outs to these people. I'm just
Sure.
going to see if I can do a search, start connecting with friends on who they know about interested organizations, individuals, businesses. You know, Easthampton is the oyster. Whatever
Yeah.
is in the realm is fair game.
So I'm going to ask the Chamber of Commerce basically what members they have that are involved in renewable energy.
Yeah, or that they know, maybe they know
Energy
someone has
conservation.
undertaken an energy project, maybe they did a big conservation or efficiency project.
Okay.
Maybe they've recently put solar on something, maybe they buy clean energy as part of like a corporate sustainability
Okay.
thing,
You know who
something
paid
like
for the
that.
fountain?
I feel like if we could do that,
Oh,
if
yeah.
we're at the next
The owner of the
meeting,
mill.
then we could decide what's the best vehicle. Is it a press
Yeah.
release?
Should've
Is it a
pumped-
media? Is
Pumps
it
should have been
Right.
all the
solar
things?
over
Is
there.
it
Combination of things, yeah.
a signage? Is it, what does it look like?
Right.
That
And we
could be
can
the
push
next
things,
step.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I agree, yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of different things we can do. Again, I think, you know, getting these partnerships helps to build that out. I mean, press releases, we do have our Facebook page that we can post up on and then have shared out from there, you know, share it into groups, things like that. Again, you know, caveats about Facebook, well taken, and the tone that things can quickly take on there. But,
Who are our friendly counselors? Who's friendly to us?
Connie Dunham,
Owen,
Tom,
Sarah?
Owen, yeah, for sure, Tom Peak.
Because I'm wondering if we
And
reach out to
Salem is
them.
too, I think, isn't it?
If we reach out to them, if they would know of some people who
Like local
they're connected
businesses
to.
or stuff like that. Yeah.
So I could reach out to Owen.
I'd be curious to know what Marin has to say about this too.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be someone who
Yeah.
really knows, you know?
Got my homework. I love homework. I love it.
Good stuff.
Well defined, Homer. I love well defined.
You're unique in that regard.
I
Start
just
worrying
keep
about my
telling
homework
myself
the
this,
night
John.
before it's due is when I start worrying about my
So
homework.
can are we done with this topic?
Which one?
The one
Let me
with
just
the
let me just wrap up
Because I wanted to get, okay, go ahead.
real quick, just around all these things, because I do wonder, you know, if there could be like a centralized place for our stuff that's not just like a Facebook
Didn't we
thing.
talk about like a shared drive?
You talk, sure,
Dropbox?
or even like or just like a public-facing like website
website.
thing on
Are we
the
talking about for us or for the
for
community?
the committee
For the
for the
committee?
committee to have.
That's a
we
good
can-
starting point.
I feel like Scott did a bunch of research around this, and Jamie Webb cautioned us on this as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't remember the specifics of that.
Yeah.
Do you have?
Is there not a page for the Energy Advisory Committee on the city website?
I mean, I think is there a page where we're just like listed, yeah, they just list
They
our
might just list-
membership
but
and stuff
you
like
can
that.
talk- there's potentially, you could add all kinds of stuff to
Well,
it.
that's what,
But we want to have some stuff just be internal resources.
Right, we don't want it to be
Oh.
public.
Right? Isn't that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying, I'm talking about external, I'm talking about
okay, I'm
external.
sorry.
facing.
Okay.
I also think we should be nice to have, I mean,
Google
I
Drive.
put my hands on 25 things that people might
I
want
think it
to
had
see
to
and I don't know
do
where to
with-
store it.
I think it has to be public somehow.
I don't think we could do that.
Agree. I think it
that's
had
part
to
of
do
the
with the
open
fact that we
meeting.
couldn't, as a committee, have a shared drive
Right.
unless it also incorporated a public
Oh, interesting.
element to it.
Yeah,
I think that was
especially because we're, none of us are like city website or city addresses or anything like that,
I
like
see,
it's
no.
all like that would be taking a public thing and making it private.
So what's the next best thing from that?
And the minutes.
Besides
Okay.
email?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we
For
could,
someone.
asking the city for some sort of like publicly accessible drive. I don't know.
I don't even know who you would ask that. Would it be like I don't know of any board or committee that has like a publicly accessible drive.
Right,
Like,
so
I
how
have-
do they all save their documents? They must save, the school committee must save them somewhere. They
Yes.
must be savable and not always shareable.
Right.
So, like, for example, for the Conservation Commission, I keep all the Conservation Commission's files
Right.
in physical form here and in digital form in my computer.
Right.
But that is,
you're
I'm an employee.
But
and
you're
I'm
in
not-
Easthampton.
And not a shared drive.
I do have a shared drive that I digitally, so everything that we do on their computers is automatically in the Google Drive, and I use that to share information to the commissioners and store files and
But
do things
that's
that way.
that's different from all the public meeting rules.
That's
That's where we get.
Understanding. I was surprised that you guys aren't, maybe because you don't have a
we're not.
staff.
We don't have right. We don't. You're doing everything in like easthamptonma.org
Yes.
domain, and like that's
Yeah.
public and that's owned by the city.
Yeah.
And so there's rules around
So
that, and like,
people
we
could
don't
do-
have access to that. We couldn't create something that would have that same level. It's not even just about the access; it's about the rules about what's being stored and like where and how
exactly,
long, and like
yes,
being
That's
deleted
interesting.
and destroyed and whatever.
Right, everything that I do
Public,
is
you know,
subject
if somebody
to
did like a FOIA request or something like that, right? We'd have to.
Yeah.
Not that I'm volunteering Cassie because she's busy and I don't have any right to do that, but I mean, is it, in theory, if we were associated with a department and a staff person, could we do something similar to what she's doing
But then-
on behalf of the conservation?
But we
Commission?
wouldn't be able to access it.
But I don't see why that would be the
Right,
case.
we're appointed people who took an oath and went
Yeah.
through hell to get on this committee.
I think, because the only reason I say that I don't
second that,
know
John.
is because I have the Conservation Commission files, I give them access to them all the time. So
But they work for the city.
no, they don't. They're also
They're
volunteers,
volunteers.
similarly so.
I don't know, I'm very paranoid about this because I worked in public school and special education, and like we used to get all this information. One of the things was, keep anything that you don't want other people to read, you had to, you couldn't keep in a file in your room.
Correct.
Because anything you write down, they can demand it. Like a parent can say, I want all your files, and they get it all.
Yeah, they do,
And-
people could do records requests for the commission records. Everything is technically public, but.
And I don't have a problem with that with our stuff, but I just know that like the rules are so complicated and difficult. Who do we ask, I guess, is the real question.
What are the big things that we feel like we need
Cassie.
to store and share?
Jamie.
Well, just all the information about buses.
Copies of the contract,
I have an office right next
the
to it.
bus
Yeah.
contract, solar ordinance. I mean, there's
Yeah.
common
Do you
things we
see her?
bat around and
Just like
discuss.
general files,
But
okay.
she's off this week.
And yeah, and if you can
But it's
send
very
it to
simple.
us
Oh, I
via
will.
email,
Yeah.
then there must be a way for us to, can we have a Google Drive? I don't know.
This is part of the issue of the public domain
Yeah.
retention
So,
thing.
let
Because we
me
talked
ask.
about this like about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, let me ask and figure
Yeah,
it out, because
okay.
I can talk to the people here and be like, what are the rules? What, because the clerk knows all the rules and all that good stuff. And then I just want to see like if it's something as simple as I just need to make the drive, and then whenever y'all send me stuff, I put it in there, and then I go between that. I'm happy to do that. It's not
So
hard.
if you do that, then every time we need something, we have to ask you. We
I don't
can't
think that
just
that's
access
true.
it.
I think I can
No, I'm
give
just
you. No, I
asking.
know. That's what I'm saying. I think
Permissions?
that I can give you permissions to access the file whenever
Okay.
you please. Because that's essentially what I do with the conservation commissioners. So
Mhm.
let me just figure it out. I need to, it's still a little like, I'm not 100% sure what my role is with EAC. Besides, I do, you know what I mean? I do the green communities.
You do
Right.
a
And
lot.
that's important, and I want, and it's heat pump stuff and like other projects that come up that it makes sense for me to be a part of. That's what I do, but I don't, I'm not the same as like for the Conservation Commission. I do
Sure.
their agenda, I do their minutes,
Oh,
I
you do.
lead the
Okay.
I help with the meetings, and I help on the liaison with the public. For y'all, I explicitly don't do the agenda or the minutes, and I was told not to do that. Like,
It's a programmatic overlap
Yeah.
that causes you to be
Well, it's-
involved.
I just know that there is there's a way that they want me, that my supervisor and everyone wants me to allot my time. I want to make
Of
sure that I'm
course,
doing
of
what they
course.
want me to do. So I want to ask
Yeah.
and figure out, like, let me dive into this and figure it out. Because it seems
And,
like it
and if
wouldn't be
not
that
through
crazy.
you, then how? There must be
Right,
some
could you
way.
get like just an overarching EAC email, and then the chair has access to that email, and so that if it changes, it's not tied to the chair, it's tied to the
Right,
You know, so,
Email address.
yeah, and it might be a question that even more so just for IT. I think if y'all were previously asking about starting your own website, I could see how that could be problematic. You know, it's tied to the city wants to have a certain level of control over that through the IT, but you
But
should
it
be able
would,
to
it would
have
be
some-
nice if we had more of a presence on the city website. So for example, you know, they're selling rain barrels. And it would be nice if we had the link to that on our portion of the city website, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't seem a crazy thing to have, like, things like that on
Yeah.
your
It's just a
EAC
question
page on the city website.
Maintaining it, right? Who
Well,
puts
there is
information, who
that.
changes it out?
It can be a lot to keep up with the website.
Yeah.
That's
Like, I
true.
want no part of that.
Yeah.
Right, I know, I mean, as
That's
much as
like
I'm
a
like, oh yeah, it's
full-time
not
job.
that bad, but it's like,
And I think that was the thing that they were trying to avoid. Apparently, maybe with the last website, we just switched over and they're like, oh, it's clean, we're gonna keep it clean.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that really means, but.
I mean, no
that was a-
outdated information,
right.
basically, wrong names of committee members or,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's an interesting thing from just a citywide standpoint, right? For like best practices for committees, for
Yeah.
information sharing, for, you know, public
we want continuity.
display
of
and
these
things like that, right? Like what is every other, you know, every other committee I'm sure has, you know, similar stuff. They want stuff to get out there, they want people to see it, they want to be able to share stuff with themselves, like what are those best practices, or what's allowed. you know?
So I'll look into it and
Okay.
I'll see what I can find for y'all for next
Hey,
week.
Okay.
but it's not till August, right?
Not till August, right? We're gonna take July off, and it's not even
Oh, we
July's
are?
tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, July's tomorrow, yeah, then we're just gonna reorient on the third Monday. I felt like doing another one so quickly in July wasn't gonna get us a whole lot. And to Marin, Marin was like, you know, a lot of committees take skip a meeting in the summer. I mean, even the city, even the city,
vacation.
yeah, well, even
Oh my
the city
God.
council is like down
Oh
to
my
one
God.
meeting a month right now, basically, right? And they barely meet in June and July, so it's like, we can all take a lead in that. I certainly have a busy July myself, so.
I see a lot of Easthampton youth soccer sign-up signs all over the city.
Yes, good.
Cute.
Good, glad to hear it. There's 5 more of them in the back of my car still.
Oh, excellent.
I have to leave at 7.
Oh, okay, what time is it? I have
It's
no
like
idea.
quarter to 7,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's, yeah, a couple things, then the rest of the stuff's not gonna take too long. unless there's a
The
big
stretch
change
code, the
communities.
stretch code.
What do you wanna do?
I would
Okay.
like to ask the city council to adopt the new stretch code
Hmm.
and have it be a requirement. So as, you know, 'cause every city in town has to opt into it.
I see.
And I think that I would like us to opt into it.
That'd be a question that, I don't know how that involves the building department. They are in
Well, the city,
understanding
well,
that
we would
they
have to,
enforce
we
it.
would have to convince them to do it, but, you know, other city, I think Northampton has, for example.
This would be for municipal
Building and
buildings or
planning.
for all buildings
It's,
in
no,
the city?
it's the code it's the
All
building
buildings.
code.
Yeah.
So it'd be for
We
all
already
buildings.
we already participate in the stretch code. It used to be if you became a green community, you were
Right.
required to.
Right.
But now what they did is they have developed new stretch codes which are much more stringent, but they're not requiring green communities to adopt them. You have to opt into them.
Okay.
And I think that we should opt into them.
And that requires a city council resolution?
I assume it does.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think,
Okay.
my first thought was just how will that impact the building department? I don't know how they would need to.
Well, it
if at all.
would impact them by the fact that they would have to implement the new stretch codes.
Yeah, yeah.
And there will be contractors who are very unhappy
Are
about
we
it.
ready for contractors, realtors, landlords, all of them, their the backlash or whatever reaction they're gonna have? Somebody's gotta be ready to answer their objections and concerns.
Yeah, there's a climate crisis, we're all gonna die.
I know, but you have to give people actual answers to their questions. They
Right.
can't just say there's a climate
right,
crisis.
yeah, the
Right.
the
All right,
Supreme
so I
Court
guess
just
what I-
today knocked down the ability to.
I mean, what
regulate
I'd like
greenhouse
to,
gases.
I guess I would like to ask
They did.
this committee to support the new stretch codes and support moving forward to ask the city council to adopt them.
Okay, I think we can generally be in support of that. I would say let's start with let's start with the research, which is.
All right, well, I will do a
use anymore,
presentation at our
Kathy,
next
don't.
meeting
It's
about
so
the
damning.
Yeah, and also the process, like what's required. Can
I
you
will-
look into
I
what's
will do
required
both.
to adopt
I
them?
will do both,
If
yes.
it's just a city council resolution, then we need to do that. We need to figure out like, okay, who are our friendly city councilors who want to take this on? Like, for aggregation, we had Owen and Tom and Connie that were willing to go to bat for us. For that, there probably a lot of support, but there may be, because that's going to probably have to go through a subcommittee as well, the city council.
And maybe some of the building department's already looking into.
They might be.
They might be already.
Yeah, I wonder which subcommittee, is it the ordinance?
That's what we went through. That's what we went through for aggregation. So
I'll find that
that's
out.
I think that's what it would be as well. So yeah, find that out. We can start to Somebody, you said you were going to talk to Owen, Misty, about something.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to Owen about, the monthly spotlight.
Right.
Like, who he knows, if he knows
Yeah.
anybody. Do you want me to piggyback something on that?
I'll see what I can do about this. If I have questions, I can
That's
email you
fine.
guys, but.
Okay.
Not yet.
But would you mind doing the Chamber of Commerce instead of me?
No, that's fine.
Because you're distributing that anyway, and then, because this is gonna actually take some,
That's fine.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, because I'll just bring it all into one.
She
Yeah,
says she
thanks.
likes homework.
I didn't say that.
No, I know. She did it. Now you're like, oh yeah, can you take
I love
do this one too?
I love him.
Finish my paper. I'm kidding.
I will finish your paper for
You're
you.
going to do work on Arcadia and do the stretch code.
Just
Yeah.
read them all along,
research.
too. I love homework.
Well, it's good to know for the future.
Okay, so green communities.
Not a huge update. I
Yep.
just submitted the second quarterly report for the grant for the Teslas, and I got confirmation she got it. So we have put in the purchase orders for the vehicles. They're not going to process the payment till July 1st, I think, because of the fiscal year. So if they don't want to add that to the pile, they gotta wait for that all to be sorted. Then they'll do the next one. So when they will arrive is not yet known, but Tesla didn't seem to indicate that there's gonna be like a delay. They like asked when we would want them. So my hope is that there would not be a delay and we would get them whenever it is that they want them. Which I will leave, defer to the police department when they want to
Tesla
receive
said there
them.
would be a delay?
No, they did not.
Wow, that's
So
surprising.
I'm surprised too, but they just asked when we would want them. So they didn't say explicitly that there wouldn't be a delay. So I'm still like a little like, I'm not convinced that there won't be, but we'll see. Because right now they're probably waiting to finish the actual like exchanging of monies to be like, okay, and now here's what you're gonna get. The
Press
car.
release?
Not sure. Well, there's,
I'm sure there will be.
it's,
Well.
I don't know if you were like aware of how it went at the city council for the request, and it was not, it passed, but
Not
there was
universally
one
loved.
counselor against it, and there was at least 2 or 3 people who came to speak against it. And so,
Because it was being purchased from Tesla.
Correct.
primarily, yeah. There was also some general opposition to money going to the police for different reasons beyond, just kind of philosophical ideas about policing generally and funding to the police.
Beyond that,
And especially
it was beyond that, or it was that?
It was in addition to the displeasure of
Oh,
Tesla.
in addition.
And I feel
Yeah.
like it would be wonderful if there could be a way to get more, the information out about why it was Tesla's, because that's the only vehicle that fulfilled the requirements of the
Yeah.
grant.
I did have to explain that to somebody
And
else. who
I
was
have
mad
too,
about it,
and
was
that, whatever you think about the police, they do periodically get rid of their cars and buy new cars, and they don't do it as often as people tend to do it. But that's just one of the things that happens in municipalities, is they
The
need to
police-
have
yeah.
vehicles that are relatively new so that they'll run when they have to use them.
The police are the most primed
And they
to
can keep up with the other new
Yeah.
vehicles on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, I understand what people are saying about Tesla and about the police, but it has nothing to, has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It's not that we're giving the police more money, it's just that they're gonna be buying new vehicles. We wanted them to buy electric vehicles. That's really all this is.
Yeah.
And the only vehicles that fulfill the requirements of the grant were the Teslas at the time.
Yeah, and so, to that end, in terms of like press releases and things like that, there was an article in the Daily Hampshire Gazette, which I was interviewed for that, and there were parts that part of my points were in there, and then they included the information from the public meeting.
Yeah.
And so like, information has gone out,
Right.
and it has been, I think, quite talked about. I don't know.
But I'm just thinking when they arrive.
Oh, true. Well, my goal, part of the grant, is to create educational like outreach materials that would live in the car. So that my hope is that they would take these cars to, like, say they did cultural chaos and there needs to be a detail. It would just be like, oh, then we're going to use the Tesla for the detail. And so if people want to come ask about the electric car, they have all this information ready to like, share.
Or if we manage to organize an electric car event,
Yeah.
we would have one of those.
No way to get one.
Be there.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, with I think that the points raised against the Tesla and Tesla generally, I think they were well made, and it was important for those points to be made and for people to hear them. But I think ultimately it was their decision for the city to start down the path of getting electric vehicles.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes, I mean, that's really what this was about.
So
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
but so when it comes to doing a press release, I'm not sure what the right move is, frankly, in terms of like, I want it to. That
Well, I guess I'm just thinking about when they arrive, there's going to be a lot of
oh, absolutely.
chatter.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it would be
think the
nice
police-
if any of it was actually valid.
Yeah.
Right, and a press release could do some of that, maybe.
Yeah.
They
Sure
could
they
do
can.
some of the
Police
heavy
department must be
lifting
thinking
of
about the press
imparting
release when they get their
facts
vehicles, and
over
I would think they'd want to
the
be shooting
chatter
their own
of
Do they do
the culture
press
wars
releases
and
from the police
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rules are.
No, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe,
So
I
the
think-
o- yeah.
mayor on behalf of the police department.
Sorry, go on. I didn't mean.
No, I was just saying, I mean, it would have been a little less contentious, not that it was like super contentious, but if it were not coming right at the same time as the school budget now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
Very much
unfortunate.
being
That's
drawn
so-
into the same circle of conversation.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so true.
So, and it's again, well, you have your own opinion about the point of like school funding versus police funding. So I get why people see that and are like, this is out of whack,
Yeah.
and we might be losing teachers, but that whole thing.
So the other parts of it, we can't go for another grant until we do the until this grant is finished.
Yeah.
Does that mean until they arrive? What
Until
exactly
I
does that
submit
mean?
my last quarterly report, to them, Green Communities, and then they close it out.
Okay.
Which I think it's going to come. It's still a number of months away, I'd say.
Yeah, so we're in 2023 before we can even consider any grants.
Probably, yeah. And then in terms of what we would go for a grant, it's very prescribed what the things that you can do for a Green Communities grant are. I think that decision will depend on what's in the like the list or the guidance when that grant year, because it changes. And then also what is available to us that's not potentially already being covered by the Honeywell project, things like that. So, because we're doing like pretty good technically, I would say, in terms of switching things over to green, energy efficient things. And so we have to start doing some like deeper digging to figure it out, but I'm not sure where the Honeywell project is going to be at that stage once that we're ready to go for them.
Right.
So kind of like, it's just a little floating right now.
Okay.
But keeping in the back of our heads, and then back of our minds, and then the annual report. It's the end of the fiscal year now that it's done. Once it's like truly done, end of July, early August, I plan to start collecting the data.
Right.
Usually I get it, the 2 other times I've done it, I've been like scrambling to get it done before the report is due in October, but I don't see why that should be the case this time. So now I know how to do it like pretty
Right.
strongly, and I feel confident that I can start it earlier than that. So
Great.
yeah, that's it for me.
Great. A couple other things around that to keep in mind too is I think from the mayor's discussion last time, right? The Honeywell stuff, some stuff is on hold. Some stuff is on hold pending like federal funding. There's like the ARPA money as well as some other stuff that was several $1 million, I think.
But they've started the first phase. Haven't they started? the
They
construction?
were doing some stuff for the HVAC. Yeah,
Yeah.
the HVAC work was being undertaken now. We're starting shortly based on the last one. And the
And some
solar stuff
lighting,
was
I think,
gonna-
also.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Lighting also.
Oh,
No, internally, buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding at least.
Yeah, there was some HVAC, right, the chillers and airflow and a few things like that, so solar stuff will be coming as the next part. I'm noticing a note here from last time too about the school stuff, and I have the name Larry Kearns written down, which is whoever's reaching out to about the school solar stuff, like somebody from Colliers, who I think is the architect.
Oh, the new school?
Yeah, the new school, or just like somebody that might know about the solar
The solar.
I can wrap that into I was gonna reach out about the high school solar. So
Okay, right.
What's the deal?
Yeah, so Larry Kearns is at Colliers, I think, is the name I have written down from the last time.
Is that with a K?
I wrote it down that
Oh,
way,
okay.
yeah, Kearns, that's my best guess.
Never seen Kearns with a C.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
think
like
they're
Carnes, like the
Oh,
plural,
Karen.
Kearns.
Karen.
Yeah, I don't know, different pronunciation.
What, no,
All right,
what-
this is good. I'll
what are we
include that.
talking about?
That was from the May meeting. I was just looking at my notes. A little bit all over the place. All right. So it's 7 o'clock, just about, the solar ordinance, you talked about that at the beginning. It seems like that was decided in favor of the developer.
I
So which would
think
be
I
a-
just sent that to you all.
I
Okay.
got that.
You got it.
I got it.
Yeah, and
Just now.
Jamie
Yeah, right.
Webb will digest that and work that
That'll be key.
into the process there now that maybe will move forward again, now that that's
I
been
did,
settled. this time.
in my notes from last time, we were going to have an official vote about what contractor we were going to use. We were going to decide, but we haven't done the due diligence.
Contractor for what?
You're talking about for the aggregation?
Yeah, I just remembered that. We were
Okay.
supposed to make a definite decision at this meeting about who we were going to hire.
Okay, well, I was assuming that we were gonna have feedback from the solicitor and all the other stuff.
No, it was but just for us to decide moving forward.
Okay.
So can we just quickly all agree? Because I think we do
Well, hold
all
on,
agree.
let's do our,
You wanna
let's do the
wait?
part, let's do the
Okay.
part where we're all gonna do our background
All
and-
right.
and learn more about the
Yeah.
process and their experience. And let's make a note that we'll vote on that as a committee at the next meeting.
I just found what this is about Larry Carnes. This was about the dashboard.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, and some company called Colliers provides the monitoring services for the new school.
Colliers, yeah,
Yeah.
Colliers is like the company that did the planning and like project managers.
And they're the same people who, what I wrote down, which could be wrong, is that they also are the people doing the monitoring for the high school as well.
So there, yeah. I knew we discussed this before.
Interesting.
Totally reinventing the wheel. So that gives you a lead,
This is
a
helpful.
thread to follow
I'll
here.
still be digging into it stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to know that somebody is doing it. But the solar ordinance, so they'll feed that back. Well, if you talk to Jamie Webb and you think of it and you want to
Ask her about solar ordinance?
I'll be
solar
talking to her
ordinance,
about
you'll be
it too.
talking to her
Just
about it
generally,
too.
because it's gonna, we were waiting.
I'll let you do it then, so we're not
Okay.
duplicating.
Yeah,
it.
that sounds good. It's because that's gonna be a whole thing for the planning department. They were gonna
Okay.
champion
Okay.
that ordinance,
Great.
so, yeah, I don't know what the implications are
Okay.
with that result. I mean, so we'll see.
All right, and the Honeywell, there's not going to be any updates for us right now. The mayor gave us an update last time. I will try to get the mayor to another one of our next couple meetings, maybe the September one after we've done the diligence and had the
Yeah.
solicitor go, so that if that will be the next one where she can be here to talk through aggregation next steps and any updates on
Although
the things that we have.
it could be moving forward even if we didn't have a meeting, like if
Yeah.
the lawyer says, oh, great, she could sign it and we can move it along.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's not, yeah, we won't hold anything up for her having to be
Right.
at a meeting, but
Okay.
like, we're working with Lindsay is very helpful.
Yeah.
So if I need, if the lawyer says, no, this looks good, and we've got our stuff done, and I want to send, say, Lindsay, okay, Good Energy will drop a specific one for us, fill in all the blanks
So
that
that,
are
I guess,
here.
so we really have decided that we're going to use Good Energy unless we
Unless we have a reason
discover
not
that there's a
to.
reason not to. So we just have consensus about that.
We have consensus. We'll take an official vote
All right.
the next time.
Okay, sounds
We've
good.
already talked about the meeting dates, so nothing to confirm there. Any other business that we have not covered so far? All right, I get a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second? Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.